Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online, your go-to source for the most intriguing insights from around the globe. Today, we're diving deep into a concept that's reshaping our world, yet you might not hear about it every day. It's called digital sovereignty. Sounds a bit like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But trust me, it's very real and incredibly important for every single one of us in this hyper-connected digital age. So what exactly is digital sovereignty? Imagine a country, or even a large organization, wanting to be the captain of its own digital ship. We're talking about having control over its own data, the hardware and software it uses, and all the crucial digital roads and bridges, the infrastructure that our online world is built on. This isn't just about being tech-savvy. It's a massive strategic issue with huge economic waves, influencing everything from innovation and how markets work to national security and a country standing on the global stage. Now, why the sudden surge in interest? What's the economic engine driving this quest for digital control? Well, a huge part of it is the realization that data isn't just information anymore. Data is the new gold. The ability to gather, store, process, and actually use data is now a fundamental key to unlocking innovation, making smarter decisions, and fueling economic growth. Naturally, nations are thinking, hey, if this data is so valuable, we want to make sure some of that value stays right here at home. Another big driver is protecting and growing a nation's own digital industries. Think about it. The digital economy is a hotbed for new jobs, groundbreaking innovations, and cool new products and services. By pushing for digital sovereignty, governments are trying to create a space where their local tech companies can really shine, reducing how much they lean on foreign tech giants and making the digital marketplace fairer and more competitive. It's also about making sure everyone gets a fair shot in this data-driven world. And let's not forget security. The safety and strength of our digital infrastructure are absolutely vital. If a country relies too much on infrastructure controlled by others, it can open itself up to all sorts of risks, not just cyber attacks, but also economic arm twisting or disruptions if global politics get messy. Digital sovereignty aims to lessen these risks by encouraging countries to develop and control their own critical digital assets. So what are the actual economic wins when a country takes more control of its digital destiny? Well, one of the biggest is the boom in the local tech scene. When countries invest in their own technologies, build their own data centers, and launch national cloud services, it sparks innovation, creates awesome high-skilled jobs, and helps a whole ecosystem of startups and digital success stories to flourish. Having more control over data also means you can capture more of its value. When data is processed and analyzed within a country, the economic goodies, from developing new intellectual property to creating amazing data-powered services, are more likely to benefit the national economy. This also makes it easier for a nation to use its data for good, improving things like healthcare, how public services are run, and efforts toward sustainable development. Plus, being less dependent on just a few massive foreign tech companies gives a country more economic muscle and better bargaining power. It can also kickstart innovation by making room for new solutions and preventing situations where everyone is locked into one supplier, which can kill competition and drive up costs. And, of course, stronger national security through digital sovereignty can help cut down on economic spying and protect key industries. But hold on. It's not all smooth sailing. Pursuing digital sovereignty has its own set of economic hurdles and challenges. One major worry is that it could lead to protectionism and break up the global market. For example, if rules about keeping data within a country's borders are too strict, it could mess with the flow of data across countries, which is super important for international trade and innovation. This could mean higher costs for businesses, especially the smaller ones, and might even cut economies off from global tech progress. The price tag for developing homegrown technologies and infrastructure can also be pretty hefty. Building competitive national cloud platforms, semiconductor industries, or AI capabilities from scratch needs a massive upfront investment in research, development, and talented people. And there's always the risk that these efforts might not create solutions that can compete on a global scale, potentially leading to wasted resources. It's a tricky balancing act, trying to grow a domestic digital ecosystem while keeping things open and innovative. Policies that are too inward-looking could accidentally choke off innovation by limiting access to global talent, technologies, and markets. And if a country gets too protectionist, it might find other countries hitting back with their own measures, leading to digital trade wars. So, how are nations actually trying to strengthen their digital sovereignty from an economic perspective? A popular strategy is investing in their own cloud infrastructure and encouraging local data centers. You might have heard of initiatives like Europe's Gaia X. The idea is to create a secure, interconnected data infrastructure that offers alternatives to the few giant global cloud providers, ensuring data can be stored and processed according to local rules and values. Building up national muscle in key tech areas like artificial intelligence and cybersecurity is another vital piece of the puzzle. This means funding research, nurturing talent, and creating supportive regulations. The European Union, for instance, has been very active with rules like GDPR for data protection and the Digital Services Act and Digital Markets Act to ensure a fair and safe digital market. The Digital Markets Act specifically targets those huge online platforms, the gatekeepers, to make sure they play fair. The Digital Services Act is all about making the online world safer by defining responsibilities for illegal content and transparency. And none of this happens without people. Fostering digital skills and talent is absolutely fundamental. You need a skilled workforce to innovate, manage, and secure all this digital stuff. Governments are also working on rulebooks for data governance and how data flows across borders, aiming to protect citizens' rights while still letting the digital economy thrive. Strategies can also include supporting local tech champions and startups with funding or government contracts, and ensuring a level playing field for competition. Some countries aim for full sovereignty by autonomy, trying to be completely self-reliant. Others realize they need sovereignty by cooperation, teaming up with other nations, or even a Nash equilibrium approach, a mix of cooperation and going it alone where full independence isn't realistic. Let's take a quick trip around the world to see how different regions are approaching this. The European Union has been a frontrunner in regulating the digital space, heavily focused on data protection, fair competition, and building a digital future that's centered on people and sustainability. But they still face challenges, like a heavy reliance on foreign tech giants for critical infrastructure. China has taken a more state-controlled path, with tight oversight of the internet and strict rules about keeping data within its borders, often driven by national security and a desire to boost its own industries. India is also pushing hard for digital self-reliance, with things like its own app store and big investments in digital public infrastructure. The United States, which has often favored a more hands-off approach to the digital economy, is also showing signs of embracing digital sovereignty, especially when it comes to national security and protecting its tech leadership. Think about restrictions on certain foreign technologies and efforts to bring semiconductor manufacturing back home. This whole economic landscape of digital sovereignty is constantly shifting. We're seeing the rise of digital public infrastructure, or DPI. These are shared digital systems built on open standards. The idea is to create sovereign digital foundations and reduce dependence on proprietary corporate systems. However, there's a concern that if major powers focus too much on their own national AI goals, global DPI efforts could suffer. The debate over data localization, whether data has to be stored within a country's borders, is still raging. Some studies suggest it could hurt GDP and trade, especially for smaller economies, by limiting access to efficient global cloud services. But others point to benefits like more local tech jobs. Finding that sweet spot between protecting data and security and allowing the free flow of data is a massive challenge. Even international trade rules are changing, with digital trade and data governance becoming hot topics in new agreements. But current rules might not be enough to tackle the global data divide or meet the specific needs of developing countries. So what does the future hold? The economics of digital sovereignty will be shaped by a few key things. Firstly, how will nations balance their own interests with the need for global cooperation? Will we see separate digital blocks forming, or can we find common ground for an open, secure, global digital world? Secondly, what impact will mind-blowing new technologies like quantum computing, 6G, and the next wave of AI have? And thirdly, can we strike the right regulatory balance to encourage innovation while addressing concerns about privacy, security, and fair play? Overregulating could kill the very innovation that digital sovereignty is trying to promote. And critically, we need to make sure that the benefits of the digital economy and the quest for digital sovereignty are shared by everyone, not making existing inequalities worse, both within and between countries. To wrap things up, the economics of digital sovereignty are complex and always changing. It reflects a global move towards nations wanting more control over their digital assets and infrastructure. While this pursuit offers exciting economic benefits, like boosting local innovation, creating jobs, and strengthening national security, it also comes with big challenges, like the risk of protectionism, high costs, and potentially stifling innovation if not handled carefully. Ultimately, the goal isn't to build digital walls around countries. It's about finding that perfect balance between independence, security, efficiency, and performance, all while staying in the driver's seat. It means recognizing and managing dependencies, building up homegrown capabilities, and working with other nations when it makes sense. As we all continue to navigate this tricky terrain, the ability to adapt, innovate, and collaborate will be absolutely key to unlocking the full economic potential of the digital age while protecting our sovereign interests in this interconnected world. The story of digital sovereignty is far from over, and it will undoubtedly keep shaping our global economy for many years to come. That's all the time we have for today on G Fun Facts Online. I hope this dive into digital sovereignty has given you some food for thought. Join us next time for more fascinating facts and insights. Until then, stay curious.